Welcome back to the Valley of the Suns podcast, a post-lottery edition of the podcast. I'm Kory Miller, and joining me as always tonight is Valley of the Suns site expert Adam Maynes. Adam, are you surviving after last night?
I'm surviving, man. I think I'm probably the rest of everybody in the Valley of the Suns, where I just really wish that for the next month and then for the 2 months after the draft, before the season, we could talk about Lonzo Ball, or we could talk about Markelle Fultz, or we could guarantee that we could at least talk about Josh Jackson, which is now no longer a guarantee, even though still, at least in some mock drafts, a possibility. So I'm hanging in there. But how about you?
I'm not too bad. So for any of our listeners who live under a rock or somewhere like it, the draft lottery was last night, and the Suns slid from 2 to 4. As much as I hate to say it, I'm not completely surprised, as Suns fans were kind of accustomed to not having the best lottery luck. As for me personally, when I was watching live and I heard the news, I got up and slowly started moving towards the TV, or rather rapidly moving towards the TV, screaming at the top of my lungs, and had somewhat of a aneurysm. So it took me a little while to kind of calm down after that. Still probably ruined the rest of my evening. What about you, Adam? How were you watching, and what did you do when you found out the result?
Well, I was watching on a cell phone, oddly enough, and it's because I was actually recording on Twitter for the Valley of the Suns' first ever live stream of something, and it was on Twitter, but it was through Periscope, and we had almost 300 people at least one point or another watching, which was really exciting for a very first time. And,
yeah, that's awesome.
And very little fanfare and advertisement heading into it, just because, none of us were really sure how well it would work and how it would work. So
yeah, very awesome.
But my reaction, you can go check on the Twitter. It's really not going to be too surprising. It was very much like, what? Wait, did that really just happen? We're really just screwed. And I really wish that I had not, raised my own hopes. I was a child in doing that. I should have been pessimistic, and I suppose part of me was, because I did not curse on air, but it was just such a bummer, and it will be a bummer. And if we get Josh Jackson, it will make it a little bit better, but still not at least having the luxury of drafting in the top 3. It was just an abject bummer.
Yeah, well, and for me, it's when we got to pick 5 and we realized someone had jumped into the top 3, for whatever reason, I got that pit in my stomach, and I just knew we were going to be 4. I just knew it. And as they opened the envelope and I saw the sunburst ball come out, I lost myself for a few seconds and found myself screaming at the top of my lungs a few seconds later. And it's obviously extremely disappointing, but after having a day to kind of sleep on it and digest it and everything, I'm going to be honest, I did not want to pick 2. I would have been happy at 1. I would have been happy at 3. I didn't want to pick 2 because Markelle Fultz is going to go 1, and especially just with the every day LeVar Ball has come out and said something else, and I can't bring myself to draft Lonzo, but at the same time, on the court, it would be really hard to pass a player of his caliber up, and so I didn't want to be at 2. I didn't want to have to make that choice. So what I was actually hoping for, what I really wanted was to pick 3, because I wanted Josh Jackson, and that's where I wanted to be. I wanted Fultz and Ball go off the board. That's okay, but we get the pick of everyone else. And my immediate reaction was, we're at 4. We're not going to get him. But then I started thinking about what Philadelphia's doing, who's running the 76ers now, and who they have on their roster. And you know what? I have a hard time seeing them taking Jackson at 3. They have a lot of forwards. They have Joel Embiid. They have Jahlil Okafor, at least for now. They have Ben Simmons. They have Dario Saric. Apparently, there's some rumors that they're going to be running Simmons at the point, which I don't completely understand, but more power to them. But even if they were to do that, you still have kind of a litany of forwards over there, and they need a guard. They really need a point guard, and they need shooting, neither of which they're going to get with Jackson. And I don't buy into kind of the whole process 76ers because Sam Hinkie's gone, so I don't think they're just going to take the best player available, who I think would be Jackson at 3. They have Brian Colangelo, who's a much more conventional GM, so I think they're going to draft for need, not for best available. So in my mind, I keep going back to I think they're going to take a guard. And there's been rumors that they really like Malik Monk. So my concern at this point is not that Philadelphia is going to take Josh Jackson. It's that Philadelphia is going to trade back. Someone else is going to jump us, and they're going to take Jackson. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, actually, that is my very fear. And it is because Philadelphia, at least rumor, and, obviously we don't live in Philadelphia, so I don't get to hear the kind of Philadelphia sports talk radio as much where they break it down the way we break down the Suns out here. So why Ben Simmons is point guard, I don't know. I suppose I remember hearing that when they drafted him last year. I guess that kind of slipped my mind, or, I just kind of put it off as, okay, especially because he missed the whole season. But, they obviously kind of look at him as kind of a point forward as well, whether it's in the Magic Johnson ilk or, LeBron James ilk. So,
yeah.
In either way, though, you still need a point guard, and you certainly need to be able to give Ben Simmons some time to grow into that role and then be able to evolve out of it if it just doesn't work.
Well, and the thing I find so odd is not that they're talking about playing Simmons at the point, because, he is more of a point forward, but he hasn't played an NBA game yet. They're talking about giving over starting point guard duties to, understandably a number one overall pick, but they're talking about starting Ben Simmons in his NBA career at a different position.
Yeah.
So it's just, it strikes me as odd. And again, I don't listen to Philly local sports radio either. So maybe this has been something that's been discussed for a while and we're just hearing about it now.
Apparently.
But again, it's kind of like what we're agreeing. It's kind of like what I said earlier, and that is I'm worried that someone's going to jump us. I look at Sacramento with 5 and 10. They could put together a package for 3. I don't know if they'd want to, but Orlando at 6. Anyways, what do you think is the most likely scenario for who ends up picking 3? Do you think Philadelphia keeps the pick? Or if you had to put money on it, do you think someone's going to come up and get that from them?
Oh, shoot, if I had to put money on it, I would say Philadelphia does not keep that pick. And if I were to put money on it, I would think the team that would make that trade would be Sacramento. Why not go get Josh Jackson? Why not go try to build around him? I don't care who else is on their team. Rudy Gay is not going to be there forever. So why not go and find that next kind of star? And Rudy Gay is not that fabulous at this point in his career anyway. But why not go and find the next star? Somebody who could play small forward, probably could squeeze into kind of a Sean Marion-esque kind of power forward when necessary if they really want to go fast. Could play a really tall shooting guard, again, in very small quantities, but enough where his versatility in terms of his defense and his size would be very advantageous to whatever team that selects him. But moreover, Sacramento got extra picks from the Phoenix Suns last year. Why not go and, and obviously they used them, but why not now go and kind of do the same thing in reverse? Now you've got 5, you've got 10. Philadelphia knows, okay, Sacramento at 3 is going to take Josh Jackson. No matter who holds number 4, whether the Suns do move back, which has been rumored out here as well, either Tatum or De'Aaron Fox is going to be available. And so for Philadelphia at 5, so if Philadelphia wants their point guard, boom, they've got De'Aaron Fox. They can also then at that point reach a little bit if they wanted to and go and get Dennis Smith. Mm-hmm. Because, he's probably projected to go to 7 or 8. It's probably not Minnesota at 7, but, a little more likely 8 at New York. So you could kind of reach and just take Dennis Smith, knowing that, hey, I can go get something else at number 10, possibly Jonathan Isaac. Or you could go with Tatum at number 5, which would be a very, solid and sound pick. Everybody's kind of marking Tatum as that next star. Well, he's the 4th star, I suppose. He's probably just the dimmer of the top 3. The top 4. And then at 10, wait and go pick Frank, and I'm going to mispronounce his name, Nitalinka. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce his name.
Yes, the European.
Frankie,
yes.
And there you go. And boom, now you've got a point guard who can kind of supplement Ben Simmons, and then you still get a solid power forward, small forward in Tatum or Isaacs. So to me, I really think Sacramento trains up, they trade Josh Jackson, and then boom, Philly gets both positions they need.
Well, so what I've been questioning is if Sacramento's willing to part with 5 and 10 to get to 3, because Sacramento has a lot of holes. They need talent, and at 5 and 10, they're going to get 2 good players. Philadelphia, I think if they trade down, my money is that Philadelphia's going to trade down and take Malik Monk, because Monk is probably the best shooter in the top 10, and that's what Philadelphia needs. They need shooting because they got none of it. You put Josh Jackson on a team with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, and I mean TJ McConnell's running the point out there. Like they don't have any shooting. I guess I kind of wonder, and I saw a tweet earlier today that said, would the Suns be able to flip with Philadelphia if they gave them the pick 32? Basically, you trade one spot. If you're Philadelphia, you know the Suns aren't going to take Monk because we have Booker, we have some shooting, we don't need Monk. And you fall back one spot and you get basically the second pick in the second round, which isn't a lot, but you know what? You can find good value in the second round if you have a good front office.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's enough to get it done because I'm sure that they would probably have a better deal from another team. I don't know if Sacramento would package 5 and 10. It's easy to speculate that, but if you look at Sacramento's roster, especially with Gay opting out and becoming a free agent, they've got very, very little talent on that roster. In fact, that roster may rival Brooklyn for worst in the league right now. And so they need prospects, and picking 5 and 10 may be best for them. In terms of who's going to be there at 4 for Phoenix, if Philadelphia stays and makes the pick, I'll be honest, I don't see it being Jackson. So I would assume Philadelphia would pick a point guard, or they go with Monk at 3. And I think outside of 1 and 2, I think there could be a lot of possibilities that could happen at 3. Probably 3 to 7 are probably very uncertain and all up in the air at this point. But I would expect the Suns to look at De'Aaron Fox. I'd expect them to look at Jason Tatum. And I would hope that Josh Jackson would be at the top of their board after Fultz and Ball are gone. So
just based on everything we've heard for the last 3 months, yeah, I mean, that seems almost like a certainty, which makes the question of does he fall for 4 or could he fall to 4, mean you just do not trade that pick until draft day. And that's what kind of really stinks about 4 versus 5 is you'd almost expect at 5 Josh Jackson will be gone, even if he slipped from 3, even if Philly went with Monk, or they traded the pick and whoever picks 3rd selects Monk for whatever reason, which is still a possibility. I mean, Monk could be the next Dwayne Wade, and somebody might think that, and boom, he's our guy.
Yeah, exactly.
At that point, Josh Jackson is going 4th, no matter who's picking. So it almost kind of sucks from simply, and by the way, somebody might take that totally out of context. I meant that sucks for us just from a conversational standpoint, from a trade standpoint, that if the Suns were picking 5, we'd really be talking about trades for the next month, and that would be, kind of, in my opinion, a little bit more of a fun discussion than, do we hope that Josh Jackson falls to us at 4? So that was my only point. But just to that extended point is, Josh Jackson has to be at 3 on their draft board. And if Monk does go 3rd and the Suns sit there at 4th, there's no way they trade out of that spot.
I would definitely hope not. My personal dream scenario for where the Suns are right now is you take Jackson at 4. He's still going to be a little bit raw offensively. He doesn't have the best shot, but all accounts are he's a gym rat. He's going to work on it. He's going to get better. I've heard him kind of compared to Kawhi Leonard a little bit when he came out in that regard. He doesn't quite have the same body, but he's a basketball player, and he's going to get better. And he's a two-way guy. He's going to play defense. And you know what? Next to Booker, that's really what we need. I want to start Jackson at the 3, the first game of the season. I want to start in the entire season. I want to make TJ Warren our 6th man, play him 20, 25 minutes a night. And just tell TJ, you know what, buddy? Go out there and score the basketball when you're on the court. Go out and be instant offense, because I think he would excel in that role and allow Jackson to grow into being a starter, because you're going to get good defense out of him right away, allow him to work on his shot a bit. I think long-term that ends up being really good. You have a starting lineup of Bledsoe, Booker, Jackson, Chris, and then whoever you put in at center. That's not a bad starting lineup. That's a lot of young talent. That's really a core you can grow behind.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I almost hate to speculate that much regarding Jackson, because I just, you still get that feeling that this Monk discussion is just kind of Suns fans trying to really sweeten the very bitter pill we swallowed last night. But
It is.
There's another, and we definitely not only should, but will turn this into a podcast in the very near future. There's a very real possibility, based on other pieces that the Suns have and can trade, will be traded and turned into draft picks. You still never know what Brandon Knight might be. You never know if, everybody's saying, and we'll talk about Eric Bledsoe here in a moment, but you never know if Eric Bledsoe is still a core piece of the future, and you and I can break it down why. You really don't know about Tyson Chandler. Could the Suns sign and trade Alex Len? If they do draft Josh Jackson, or even Tatum for that matter, do you trade Warren? Do you get the right? So I mean, the Suns still have at least 2, if not 4 to 5, really solid pieces that could return something of value. And this season, it still could be a draft pick. I mean, the Suns could still flip.
It's true.
Brandon Knight for a first rounder. It wouldn't be top 5, certainly not even top 10. But
no,
at some point,
if they were able to flip Knight for any first rounder, I would be over the moon. I
would have never thought 2 years ago that would have been plausible until Markieff Morris has turned into a first rounder. Wasn't he a lottery? Wasn't that a lottery? Yeah, it was a lottery
he
pick.
ended up being kind of a late lottery pick, because we ended up flipping that pick for in the Marquise Chris deal last season.
That's right.
At the draft last year. Yeah.
So, and that's the thing is, really anybody can be valued at a first-round pick. Hell, the Suns, I mean, we were giving first-round picks away in the D'Antoni era, so, I mean, first picks can move. And it's just all about the right time, and, some team might still... Brandon Knight has value. He had a very crappy 2016-2017 season with the Suns. He didn't have an awful 15-16. It just wasn't all-star worthy. And he's still only 24. The guy's just a scorer. I mean, that's just what he is. He's just a scorer, and those guys have value in the league, especially on middle-of-the-road teams that just need that guy to kind of put up 25. That's probably an overestimation. But, 17 and 22 points a game,
definitely.
You can do that.
Well, and let me turn this back on you. You mentioned Eric Bledsoe and his possible future. I would imagine personally that if the Suns luck out and Jackson falls to him at 4, they take Jackson. Blitz is going to stay, at least for the meantime. He signed 2 more years on a extremely friendly team deal right now. I think he's making still $14 a year, which after the new CBA, that is a steal of the utmost caliber. If the Suns look at maybe a De'Aaron Fox at 4, do you see them trading Bledsoe? What is your prediction for the future of Eric Bledsoe, given how the lottery shook out?
I'll say this. A lot of people have just kind of said, oh, no Fox, no Fultz or Ball, so therefore Eric Bledsoe stays. I don't know if that is entirely accurate. He still does not fit into the time frame that this team is being built as. I mean,
Agreed.
He's 27, which is still...
Absolutely agree.
Yes, it's young, and he's still prime, and he could probably have a good 5 years left in prime. But they're going to have to pay him a heck of a lot more in 2 years, and you're going to be paying a guy who will then be 29.
Yep.
So
it's going to be a max contract, absolutely.
Better spent and utilized on a playoff team now, and I've always gone back to Toronto, and I've actually heard in the last couple of weeks that Toronto may really actually have some legit interest in him because their point guard situation is very likely to change. But regardless, I just see kind of now at the same time whether it happens over the next 3 months and certainly on draft day, I don't know. It could happen at the trade deadline. Mm-hmm. But at that point, do you really want to waste half or 2/3 of your schedule with Eric Bledsoe still on your team? I really think that it is advantageous for Ryan McDonough to still look into and accept calls and maybe make a couple calls regarding Eric Bledsoe and just still see what you can kick around. So, no, truthfully, even though everybody's saying no Fultz, no Ball, Bledsoe's your point guard, I still don't know if that's entirely accurate. And the second reason I'm going to kick that ball back over to you is, okay, so he lasts another 3 or 4 years. We've plowed his contract. He stays healthy. He plays great. We still don't win a championship in 3 or 4 years. He's now 30, 31. That's still prime, but now you're on the backslide. Devin Booker, let's say we take Josh Jackson for the sake of argument, even Tatum, Chris, all of that core, Dragon Bender, they're still only 24. So you now have to find another point guard before they even enter their 27th prime. So, I just feel like if you're going to go down this route and you just freaking wasted an entire season of intentional losing to fall to 4th, you got to then just, go find a young point guard and really build around him and get whatever value you can for Eric Bledsoe now.
Well, I completely agree. You have to trade Bledsoe. his value is at a peak, and it's only going to go down from here because if you hold on to him to the trade deadline, then he's a rent-a-player for a year and a half, and if you trade him next season, a team knows they only have him for a year before they have to sign him to a big extension. And at this point, if he keeps playing the way he's playing, he's going to demand max money.
It's going to be a lot, yeah.
The other thing that, especially with this year's draft class of point guard, there are a lot of really good point guards in this league right now. It's a very point guard heavy league. So that, I mean, it's bad in a way because I think it reduces his trade value somewhat. But it's also, you don't want to go tie up a max deal for a point guard unless you got a top 5 guy. And as much as Bledsoe has been great in a Suns uniform, he's not a top 5 point guard. And you can get, I mean, look, 3 of the first 4 or 5 picks this year are going to be point guards. 2 of them are supposed to be franchise point guards. And Fox is really rising up the board. And some people think he might be the best point guard in the draft. So you could have 3 or 4 if you throw in Dennis Smith as a black horse. You could have 3 or 4 franchise point guards just coming out this year. Every team is going to have the ability to go find a good point guard. And so I don't want to tie up all my money in Bledsoe. And it's like what you said, when you have to pay him in 2 years, that's when we're getting ready to contend. Booker's 23, Chris and Bender are about 23. I mean, the average age of the core right now is, 21, 22? So it's it's exactly what you said. When Bledsoe's 29 and he wants another 4 or 5 year deal, it's going to take him until he's in his mid-30s and out of his prime. That means that when Booker's in his prime, when Bender's in his prime, and Chris is in his prime, we're going to have $30 million a year tied up in Bledsoe. I don't think that's a good move. So even if it's an unpopular take right now, I think you got to trade Bledsoe now. You got to get as much as you can for him, even if it's not draft picks. Even if it's not a draft pick this year, if you can get future firsts for him, go get those future picks. And you know what? If we don't sign another point guard to come and be a starter, find someone who's going to be a veteran backup and give the reins to Ulis. Give him 3 months and just say, Tyler, this team is yours. We're going to see what you can do with it. And just let him go. Because you know what? Ulis showed at points he can be a starting caliber point guard on an NBA team. He's small and he's not going to go out and average 25 a night. But he's smart, he picks his spots, and he's able to move the ball. And with scorers and shooters around you, that's enough in today's NBA. So I really want to move Bledsoe, draft Jackson, and just see what Ulis can do with the team. And yeah, that means we're not going to make the playoffs next year. I don't think anything's going to change that. I'm not trying to be pessimistic. This team is not built to compete yet. It's really built to compete around 2020. So let's take this next season. Let's develop the young guys. Let's get another good young talent in this draft, and let's set us up with more future assets, and let's see where that takes us.
You know, I said in my way too early prediction, top 5 way too early prediction post that I wrote about 2-3 weeks ago at chickenfindavalleyofsuns.com, and I actually said that the Suns will make the playoffs, and I do still, even though we might not get Josh Jackson, even if it is Tatum or we trade out of it, I do think that this team actually could, with the right moves, make the playoffs. And this is totally off topic, so I'm going to keep it very short. There's just enough moving pieces, and there's just enough happening in the West that there could easily be a spot for the Suns in the bottom 8-7-6 range. Now, that being said, it does get a lot more difficult with Eric Bledsoe, but kind of the great mystique of Ryan McDonough is that, man, he can pull rabbits out of a hat. No, I don't think anybody will ever say that Brandon Knight trade was good. But let's just see what happens. He can still turn that into something positive very quickly. He turned Markieff Morris into something positive. He was even able to turn Luis Scola into a first-round pick, which I don't believe that he...
I don't think he was worth it. I'll be honest, that was a great deal.
Oh my goodness, it was an incredible deal. And was that McDonough?
Yes, it was.
Okay, perfect. I was making sure. I was trying to. Boy, we've had so many GMs in the last decade. I was kind of, my head is spinning. But I mean, that's the thing. He became a first round pick, so it's just kind of he's been able to pull rabbits out of hats, and I just think that there is a very good shot that even if we don't land Josh Jackson, we're obviously certainly not going to get Fultz or Ball, that this team really can improve. And I do think that even trading Eric Bledsoe can bring solid improvement this season. I've got very high hopes for Tyler Ulis. I don't know if he's the point guard of the future, but even if he isn't and he's just the point guard for now. I don't know what that really means in terms of how they play next year. There's still just enough where, some simple improvements. Hell, a healthy TJ Warren next year for the entire season could be basically like making a great trade, because he was fantastic the first about month, then he got hurt, then it took him, a month off, then it took him at least another 6 weeks before he kind of found a stride again. By the end of the season, he was a little more inconsistent than he was when the season first started, but he was now really starting to pick it up, and I do think a healthy summer and starting next year without any weird head injuries, that's going to be like making a good trade for a great starter. Again, if we add Jackson or if we add Tatum, those guys, it's again, you're just picking up free talent. I do not think this team is that far off, and it's fine with saying, okay, they'll really start kind of being that team in contention in 2020. That's fine. Young teams can turn things around very quickly because they just don't know that they're supposed to lose, and hopefully this team has that kind of go-get-itness, and they just realize we're not supposed to lose, and those who were on the team this past year, they don't want to lose anymore. And anyway, I totally just rambled on that. But I'm really I'm so bummed about the lottery, but I'm really not bummed about next season at all.
No, and I mean, we should always be hopeful for next season. We have a young superstar. I'm going to keep saying it. In Devin Booker, we have a lot of young talent. Chris had a good rookie season. Ulis definitely. I mean, even if he's not starting potential, he's definitely well outplayed his second-round draft position.
Oh yeah.
Bender hopefully will be healthy. We'll get to see more of what he's going to be. There's lots of reasons to be hopeful still on Planet Orange, and it's I kind of said this morning is my big takeaway from the draft, and what I want to leave all of our listeners with is it's really frustrating and disappointing that we fell from 2 to 4, but we have to look at it this way: we have the 4th pick in a strong draft class. It's maybe not a once in a decade class, but it's definitely the strongest it's been the last few years, probably since 2012, maybe 2011, maybe. It's definitely the strongest it's been probably in 5 years, and we're going to get a really good player at 4. We're going to get a really talented player at 4, and we're going to add him to this young core. And you might not be able to get a superstar potential at 4, but there are all-star potential players that you can probably get from 3 to 10. And we're going to get one of those guys. And if you get Josh Jackson, I think he's the 3rd best or maybe even the 2nd best player in this draft. And I think Josh Jackson has some superstar potential. Especially, the comparisons to Kawhi probably, they're not fair because we don't know. These players are so young nowadays with the one and dones that it's hard to predict where they're going to go because so much of it's based on potential. But I'm really excited about what I see in Jackson. So no matter what happens between now and the draft and what happens on draft night, we're going to get a good player at 4. We're going to add him to this core. This young group is going to keep growing together, and we're going to have a fun team to watch. And in 2 or 3 years, we're going to be back in the playoffs. And it's clear that even if McDonough made a really awful move with that Brandon Knight trade, you got to think of, just as Adam said, you got to consider the good moves he has made over the years. Traded for Bledsoe, turned Scola and Markieff Morris into first-round picks. They've really knocked the last 2 drafts out of the park. I mean, McDonough has really shown a knack for finding talent no matter where he's drafting, whether it's closer to the front, closer to the middle of the lottery, or even in the second round. So I think we just got to trust the front office, trust the rebuild. I'm not going to say trust the process because that's kind of trademark Philly now, but we got to stick with it. And Adam, I know that as we get closer to the draft, there's going to be tons of analysis on valleyofthesuns.com. Is there anything you want to advertise or let our listeners know about before we leave today?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, in terms of social media, always stay in tune with Valley of the Suns on Twitter. So at Valley of the Suns is all it is. Totally have our tweets text to your phone. I have that for a bunch of sites. So it's just a great way of getting instant information and opinions. But in terms of individual posts, I highly recommend. We've just got up as of this afternoon the Valley of the Suns mock draft 3.0, and I think it will make a lot of Suns fans happy. I don't believe that it's fantasy either. Brooks Ullman is kind of our analytics guru. He wrote about Jason Tatum last night, which we got that up today, and he actually has information from a PhD in analytics or in something, but he's an analytics guy, and he says that Jason Tatum is the second best player in the draft, and if the Suns can get him at 4, that is not just value, that is stud. So right there, those just a couple. We are all going to be writing about this draft for the next month for sure, and then once that ends, then we'll have a lot of previewing of the season. But for the next, what would it be, 35 days, give or take, until the draft? It's going to be a lot about the draft. But what's also awesome is that we're not just news, but we obviously do discuss news. We're a lot of opinions, and we're your opinions. This is fan-sided, so this is really the Valley of the Suns talking about the Suns. So we obviously want to hear from you guys, and we have a lot of different and varying opinions. I know that Kory and I agree a lot, but that's mainly because great minds think alike. But there is a lot of varying opinions on this website, and so we'll have somebody that agrees with you, and we'd love to hear from you about it.
Yep.
By the way, if I could just sneak one thing in.
Sure.
Maybe the Suns really did dodge a bullet with LeVar Ball. His dad, with Lonzo, his dad LeVar now wants $3 billion, and I'm going to quote, "That's triple B's as in billion, instead of just $1 billion." So, yeah.
Well, that's not going to happen.
He's totally not sexist. He says he scoffed at the idea of selling products to women. So, yeah, I guess there is women basketball players or athletes out there that want to buy stuff. So
I don't think that anyone in Phoenix is upset that LeVar is not coming to town. So.
No, I am upset that we don't have a shot at Lonzo, but LeVar, oh my gosh.
Well, you know what? I think it's a headache. I'm happy to give to the Lakers, and we'll see how that works out. But anyway, Adam, as always, thanks for your time.
Yes,
good to hear from you again. And I know that we'll be back before the draft, previewing more of the potential options and news and rumors for the Suns at 4. And until then, thanks for listening, and have a good night, everyone.